We are coming to you live with breaking news, a massive victory for pigs and the people who love them. California passed Prop 12, which says that you can't sell pig meat in this state if it comes from pig gestation crates, those absolutely horrific crates where pigs can't turn around or move. The U.S. Supreme Court sided with those fighting for the pigs, the people of California who voted overwhelmingly to pass that, and against the pork producers. I want to go straight out to Amy Jean Davis. You have been on the front lines of this battle, holding vigils at pig slaughterhouses here in California. What is your reaction to this truly monumental ruling? And thanks for unmuting.
I'm thrilled. I couldn't believe it. I mean, with everything going on in the world today and the way our political environment has been, with the way the Supreme Court has been, I am shocked, and I'm so thrilled. And I just want to say, I saw something about Brett Kavanaugh's dissent, and he said something about California pushing their morals and whatever on the rest of the country. Well, this is what evolution looks like. California is just not one of 50 states. We're the largest economy in the U.S. and we're the 5th largest economy in the world. So if America ever has wanted to make decisions and change policy to be an example for the rest of the world, as I'm sure we have with the way that we feel about our country, this is exactly that. This is California, the largest economy in the state, 5th largest in the world, setting an example for how humankind needs to behave and act moving forward. And this is for so many reasons, and I'm sure we'll get to them on this call.
Yes, and check this out. This is what we're talking about. These are pig gestation crates. And we are so honored right now to be joined by one of my heroes. Well, everybody on this panel is my hero, but our surprise guest, Gene Bauer, the founder of Farm Sanctuary, considered the father of the the farm animal sanctuary movement. Gene, this is a huge, momentous victory for people who've been struggling since 2018. This is a 5-year battle. What is your reaction, and what are the implications for pigs, given the ruling about these crates? Just to make it clear to people, if you're going to sell pig meat, pork, bacon, or whatever in California, you cannot do it from animals who are raised in these horrific, cruel crates. Take it away.
Yes, no, thank you, Jane, and great to see everybody. And today is a momentous day. This ruling is significant. It's going to have ramifications that are going to last for years, if not decades. So what Prop 12 did was it said, not only can you not confine animals in certain types of cruel devices in California, including gestation crates, which is how pigs used for breeding are kept, but you also cannot sell products in California that come from farms that use these inhumane devices. So agribusiness has been fighting it for years. They've gone to court at every level. They've lost over and over again. And then eventually they brought it to the US Supreme Court, who agreed to listen to this case and to give the industry one last chance to undermine California's humane law. And we were nervous because we were concerned, honestly, that this was brought up, that the Supreme Court might go a direction we didn't like. But today we're ecstatic that the US Supreme Court upheld California's law, saying it's illegal to confine animals in these inhumane devices, and it's illegal to sell products from animals who are confined in these gestation crates for pigs, veal crates for the calves who are raised for veal, and battery cages, which is how hens used for egg production are kept. So it's a significant victory. The industry is very upset about it, and it is a step in a positive direction. It shows that what agribusiness has been doing is outside the bounds of acceptable conduct. It is not only immoral, it is also illegal in this instance. And I'm hopeful that this will spread and create increasing changes in the industry. Still have a long way to go, but this is a huge victory.
And people are like, in ecstasy. The actress, the Curb Your Enthusiasm actress, Lori Allen, just said, yes. And people are just absolutely over the moon over this. Of course, we have an audience of animal lovers. Yes, this is a huge blow to the pork producers who went all the way up to the Supreme Court to fight this. I want to go round robin with our incredible panel. Everybody here, an advocate for animals. So full disclosure, I got the news, although I have a subscription to the New York Times early this morning. Nathan Semmel, former Manhattan District Assistant District Attorney and noted defense attorney, texted me with this amazing news. And I want to go straight out to you. Legally, as a former assistant district attorney and a defense attorney, what is the significance of this, Nathan?
Well, Jane, obviously it's wonderful news for animals, for people. It's also really big news for states and municipalities who pass laws that are decided on issues like health, ethics, cruelty. Essentially, the Supreme Court has said that the states have the rights to pass their laws and that they aren't going to necessarily interfere with those states' decisions, even if it has some bearing on commerce, which was really the crux of the case here. So, you had a 5-4 decision, which sounds extremely close, and it is. But one thing that I noticed in skimming through the decision, because I haven't had a chance to read all of it yet, is that even the 4 dissents didn't really, what they sort of said was that they would remand the case down back to the lower court to essentially better establish whether the states have, shown enough of an interest. But none of them have essentially said that, the Prop 12 is wrong or illegal. And in fact, the majority has said that it is legal.
Yeah, I want to say, for me, what I got out of it is, in this time of tremendous partisanship and just really, almost like two Americas that can't get along, it was sort of a bipartisan decision, a 5-4 decision. People who would never never agree on anything, who disagree, it seems, on everything. And I don't care what you say about the mumbo jumbo of the technicalities. Even the Supreme Court justices are human beings. And I'll bet my bottom dollar that in their private moments, they looked at this and they said, this churns my stomach. This is morally wrong. This is disgusting. We can't co-sign this. We can't say this is okay. I feel that despite all the technicalities, this was a human decision on the part of people who just didn't want to be a part of that. I want to go to Laura Fox. You are a noted attorney working in animal law. How significant is this? We've got the Non-Human Rights Project trying to get habeas corpus for elephants and primates. You've got all sorts of, Animal Legal Defense Fund, advancing law for animals, many attorneys now diving into animal rights. Is this going to embolden them?
Well, I think so. I mean, this is hugely significant for the animal protection movement, right? So this law creates a standard for pigs pretty much around the country, because if the industry pleadings are correct and they've alleged that as a practical matter, given sort of the nationwide pork industry and how it's vertically integrated and the nature that Amy Jean mentioned, that California's economy plays in this production, that, on a nationwide scale, we're going to see pigs around the country be able to stand up, turn around, stretch their limbs, and lay down in 24 square feet of space. And so that is extremely significant for the millions of sows housed now in gestation crates. And then it has an impact, right, in other states, right? So California is not the only one with a ban like this. right? You see it in Massachusetts, in Florida, in Arizona, in Maine, in Michigan, in Oregon, in Rhode Island. And now that this has been settled, right, other states can now pass their own sort of legislation that provides just more protections, more humane production practices for animals.
I personally think this is a major turning point for the animal rights movement. Just earlier this week, we had heard that the United Kingdom is starting animal testing for cosmetics, and it was knocking me back on my heels. And then you read these hit pieces. There was a hit piece against plant-based meats in Bloomberg, et cetera. And I said, you know, they've declared war on us because we're getting somewhere. And now you see where we're getting. Donny Moss of TheirTurn.net, you are also on the front lines, working around the clock for animals. I mean, how big is this? Like, get a big picture historical perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the arc of the moral universe bends towards justice, but it takes a long time to get there. This is definitely a milestone. You know, I'm putting myself in the shoes or the hooves of the pigs today and hoping that these laws are actually enforced, because at the end of the day, enforcement is really pivotal here. You know, for the pigs, you know, we see the photographs of the pigs in these gestation crates, sort of the intensive confinement, and we can imagine how stressful and frustrating that must be for them. What people who don't, like us, wouldn't know is that, I mean, these pigs go so insane from the intensive confinement that they chew the bars until their mouths bleed. And what you can't see in the images are the air quality, are the smells, the oppressive smells, is this sense of desperation, because these are mother pigs who can't take care of their own babies. They can't even turn around to see them in some cases. So it's big for the movement. And of course, it's big for the individual animals whose lives will be a little less horrific as a result of this victory.
Now, Lindsey Baker, you are a California voter. I know, like you, we both went out with our little pieces of paper collecting petition signatures. I was here at Santa Monica at the farmers market. I know you did it as well. As a California voter and citizen, what is your emotional reaction to this?
My emotional reaction is just pure joy, and it just gives me a new hope for what we can actually do when we get together. There was a huge tweet storm that we did. I thought it was really successful. And I love seeing groups come together and working together, because we're so much stronger that way. But as far as how significant this is, it's huge. It's huge for the movement. And I couldn't be happier. I'm overcome with emotion. And I just think about the pigs that they are in those gestation crates. And how could anyone of good conscience, you know, like you said, it's impossible to look at that and say it's okay. So I have hope that there is still many people in our government that are not influenced by the corruption. And it makes me very hopeful. Thanks.
And I just want to say that Donny Moss is absolutely right. It's all about enforcement. And so we have to figure out how we're going to make sure this is enforced. California is not only the 5th largest economy, but it's on track to become the 4th largest economy. Now, I read in the New York Times, recycled paper, by the way, that 13% of the pork consumed in the United States is consumed here in California. So 50 states, 13%. Californians are, unfortunately, eating a disproportionate amount of pigs per state. So give us a sense, Amy Jean Davis, of how important California is. We know what happens in California spreads to the rest of the world. That's an old cliche, but it's true. How significant is this in terms of what's going to happen, not just in the United States, but around the world?
Well, we were really excited when the Los Angeles City Council unanimously endorsed the plant-based treaty. And that was just the city of Los Angeles. And we were so excited because we've seen, just look at history, how when something gets done in Los Angeles, it can ripple out throughout the rest of the country and the globe as well. But when the state of California, with the power that it has due to the size of its economy and the number of people who live and work here, does something like this, the ripple effect of that gives me chills. I honestly can't answer your question, Jane. I don't know what something like this is going to do for the animal protection movement overall, for the climate change, fighting climate change movement. I mean, this is major, and I can't believe the Supreme Court of all entities upheld Prop 12. So one thing I did want to mention is that with this new law, with the amount of space that mother pigs will be granted, that will absolutely mean less pigs are bred. Less pigs will be born. Less pigs will be killed. And of course, the ag industry is terrified of that, because that means less profit for them. But there's no way, no physical way for us as a society to continue breeding the same number of pigs into existence while also cutting out gestation crates. It's just not physically possible. So this is great in that way as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I want to personally say that it doesn't mean that these pigs are going to have a great life and go out and get some bacon. Oh, no. We've all, and Amy G. Davis has led the vigils at Farmer John, which thankfully is closing. Although, as Amy Jean points out, those animals, or some animals, will be killed. Some pigs will be killed somewhere else where it might be not as easy to protest. But you also have the horrific ride to the slaughterhouse. And then, I don't want to upset people, but just reality check so nobody thinks, oh, now there's humane meat, because there is no such thing. There was also an undercover investigation by Raven Deerbrook of Direct Action Everywhere into the pig gas chambers at Farmer John's. And it had been described falsely as sort of, oh, this is nothing. They just go to sleep. She risked her own life to go undercover, literally go into the slaughterhouse, go into the pit. And I can only show you a couple of seconds of what was found. It's absolutely horrifying.
My name is Raven Deerbrook. I'm an undercover investigator, and while working in Los Angeles, I gained access to one of the most secretive aspects of the slaughter industry, the gas chambers used on pigs.
There it is. I mean, Donny Moss, or let me go back to Gene Bauer on this. I mean, the suffering is not over, and we don't want to get a sense of complacency.
Absolutely. And oftentimes things are labeled to sound a lot better than they are. In fact, it's in the industry's interest to make things sound better than they are. And this form of killing pigs or stunning them with gas was argued to be a more humane way to do it, which obviously it is not. And I'm very grateful for that undercover work. It's critically important that we continue to look at these things. And one other thing I'll just add about California being the largest, most populous state with the largest economy in the country, it's also the biggest agricultural state, which many people don't realize. And so what happens in California can change not only culturally, but in practice when it comes to the way we nourish ourselves on this planet. And the fact is that in the United States, 10 times more land is used for animal agriculture versus plant-based agriculture. We can feed ourselves much more efficiently in a healthier way, while also addressing the climate crisis by shifting to growing and eating plants instead of animals. So hopefully by putting a squeeze and some pressure on animal agriculture with legislation like Prop 12 in California, we will also now start nudging things towards plant-based agriculture, which is better for animals, better for people, better for the planet.
Absolutely. And as you say that, I think of some of the interviews I've done with plant-based producers like Jenny Goldfarb of Unreal Deli, who was on Shark Tank. Now that looks like meat, it tastes like meat, and it's 100% from plants. So, I just wonder, Donny, you are there, as I said, on the front lines. You were there going into Adidas and Nike, right? On the kangaroo leather. And it always seems impossible until it's done. You went into the stores and did intense demonstrations against their use of kangaroo leather, thinking, oh, is this ever going to happen? And yet you won ultimately. I mean, Is it a matter of just being relentless? This was a 5-year battle.
I mean, that definitely helps, but I think that the battle to shut down slaughterhouses, which is what we really need to do here, is going to be a much more difficult one. I mean, truth be told, the idea that we have slaughterhouses, such a place as a slaughterhouse in 2023, with everything we know about animal sentience and the impact of animal agriculture on our health, on the planet, and as you always say, Jane, I mean, what animal agriculture is contributing to ocean dead zones and species extinction and deforestation and antibiotic resistance and pandemics. I mean, there are so many reasons we need to shut down animal agriculture altogether, but people want to eat meat. And so while I'm grateful for people like Jenny Goldfarb and other companies that are bringing delicious plant-based alternatives on the market, I think we have a very long way to go, perhaps until meat that's, clean meat that's produced without the animal, it becomes available. I just want to
go ahead.
So, sorry, Jane.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Absolutely.
I just want to also add that, we still have people in power who think that this is all okay. And of course we do. I mean, I was just looking at, one of the senators from Iowa tweeted about the decision, Chuck Grassley. He said, disappointing news that the Supreme Court, by the way, this is all one sentence. He used no punctuation. Disappointing news that the Supreme Court upheld Ninth Circuit decision to allow California to regulate how pork reaches your plate. Prop 12 is an attack on your breakfast. You can expect to pay more for bacon. California's liberal regulations impact pork producers nationwide. So no consideration to the things that we're talking about, like the impact of, pork production on the pigs, on the planet, on his constituents' health. So we do have a long way to go.
I totally agree with you. And that's what always shocks me when I see journalists write up a story, the stories that we're going to hear about this, although I'm very happy that the New York Times published it from a seemingly animal cruelty perspective and didn't just make it all about pork prices. You're going to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of, pork prices are going up. Yeah, heart disease could go down too. Cancer, processed meat is officially cancer causing, according to the World Health Organization, and pigs are consumed to a tremendous degree. Bacon, deli slices, hot dogs in the form of processed meat, they are cancer causing. Is that included in these discussions? Generally not. I want to talk a little bit about enforcement. And Laura, maybe you could address this. What are the legal people who've been fighting for this? And I know your organization has been on the front lines as well of trying to make sure that the courts hear our side of the story. What is the legal enforcement of this? How are we going to enforce it? How are we going to make sure that in Iowa or in Montana or in Utah, they're not putting pigs in gestation crates? Because we know from undercover investigations, particularly Direct Action Everywhere, that there have been massive pork producers who said they no longer use pig gestation crates. And then they went in there and they're doing pig gestation crates.
Yeah, enforcement's going to be a huge issue. And so now that Prop 12 is going to be a law, California needs to finalize its regulations related to the certifications that are necessary to sell within California and decide whether or not they're going to send California inspectors into other states' production processes to verify whether or not they are Prop 12 compliant. And then beyond, right, relying on state enforcers, it's going to take a movement, right? It's going to take some undercover investigations. It's going to take sophisticated consumers to verify whether or not the products that are actually reaching them are compliant with Prop 12. So there's a lot of details that need to be finalized related to enforcement. But there's going to be a lot of eyes on California to make sure that the pork that's sold within their borders is Prop 12 compliant.
And this is, there's been some talk about Well, a lot of organizations do undercover investigations. They've been doing them forever. And, well, guess what? Now they're really going to become significant, because if they can prove that the law, not that they weren't significant, but at it, years and years ago, decades ago, when there was an undercover investigation, it was especially shocking because people hadn't been doing them. Then a lot of organizations, I don't want to leave anybody out, but Mercy for Animals, Animal Outlook, PETA, Direct Action Everywhere, on, doing these undercover investigations. Every single time they go in there, they find the same thing: horrific cruelty. And so some people said, well, maybe it's not that effective now. And I want to go back to Gene Bauer on this. Now, this could be specifically and particularly effective because if they can prove that a company is using pig gestation crates, then they can literally walk into Ralph's or in any of these other stores and say, this product needs to be pulled now.
Yes, I think the fact that we have a law on the books makes it actionable, where if there is a violation, something can actually be done about it. And at the same time, we need to continue working to change the entire system and to create incentives that, like Prop 12 is going to discourage investments in cruel, unsustainable, wasteful agriculture. And we need to incentivize investments in healthier agriculture. In this country, our food system is making us sick. It's been estimated that we could save 70% on healthcare costs and save hundreds of billions of dollars, if not trillions, by shifting to a whole foods plant-based diet. So I think that we need to enforce the laws on the books. We need to make those accountable for violating laws when they do. And also we need to create a whole new food system where, instead of investing in factory farming the way we have been, instead of investing in dairy, meat, and eggs, we need to invest in healthy plant-based foods and sustainable farms, community-oriented farms, urban farms, organic farms, and build a whole different food system. So ending cruelty is part of it, but then building a solution is the other really important part of it.
And I sometimes wish people in my panel, like Gene Bauer, would run for president. Is that a political statement? No, I mean it lovingly. But, in a general way, look, the Biden administration sided with the pork producers on this one.
Yep.
And that's shameful. That is shameful. Shame on them. But what do you expect when the USDA is run by a dairy industry trade group leader, Tom Vilsack? So this is a bipartisan problem. We're just about out of time. Let's do a quick round robin. Nathan, even though you gave me the story, I think I cheated you a little today. So take it away.
No, that's quite all right. With this panel, I'm just honored to be here, honestly. One thing I want to add on the enforcement issue is today's decision really provides a green light to all other states to pass laws similar to Prop 12 or even go further. This is a green light, and that will help enforcement. It puts additional pressure on these food producers to act within the law. And so California represents 13% of pork sales. Add other states to it, and it becomes the majority. You can see this, to me, is a green light for other types of legislation. Another, I think, beautiful thing about today is that this was about a proposition or a referendum. This was specifically voted on by the people of California, not by the legislators, but by the people. They want this. And I think with that, there is an acknowledgement that pigs are sentient beings. And while we have a long way to go till slaughterhouses are shuttered, this is a very big step. And I think it really does open up the possibilities for things like battery cages and so many other cruel practices. I know in New York right now, we're fighting in court the New York City foie gras ban. We thought we were home free on that, and then there was an injunction that was brought to pause the law. Well, with today's decision, I think it really heartens the New York City legislators to say we have every right to do what's best for our citizens, We are allowed to make ethical decisions based on things like animal cruelty and the health of our citizens. And our laws are legitimate. Just ask the Supreme Court. They said so today.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's going to have a ripple effect, and it's going to embarrass state, federal, and local agencies and legislators who dismiss this and say, oh, it's just about animals, when it is about animals, but it's also about so much more, as we've established. Okay, we've got literally, we're over the half hour mark. So very quickly, we're going to just do a round robin. Donny Moss, your final thoughts.
I just want to say, repeat what the other U.S. senator from Iowa said. She said extremists in liberal states like California shouldn't be allowed to ban our bacon, in all caps. And my first reaction to that, her name is Joni Ernst, is, speaking of extremism, what could be more extreme than intensively confining pigs in crates that are barely larger than the sides of their bodies? There is nothing more extreme on the planet than this cruelty that you're showing on the screen right now. So to people who still eat pigs, instead of eating a hot dog, eat a veggie dog made out of soybeans and grains, put some mustard and relish and sauerkraut on it, and you won't even know the difference. It's delicious.
Absolutely. Thank you, Donny. All right, let's go to Lindsey Baker.
Yeah, I just want to say, for the people that are complaining that it's going to make the cost of food go up, what about healthcare? As we said before, it's going to get more and more expensive and untenable. So that's one big thing. And I think that instead of spending their money on lobbyists, the meat industry should start to be more forward thinking and start supporting and building these models where we can make clean meat, because that is the future. And let's all move forward. This is the 21st century.
Thank you, Lindsey. All right, Laura.
Yeah, thank you. So I have two kind of final thoughts. I guess the first is just a word of warning, right? That we have to be concerned about potential legislative backlash, right? The court does acknowledge that the federal legislatures could come in and create a national standard. They do point to all the failed attempts that the industry has tried to convince legislators to pass. But now that this is the playing field and states can pass these types of laws, we should be concerned about the federal legislators stepping in. And so our organizations need to be on the offensive to try and tackle that. And then my last, I guess, takeaway is, I think that this opinion really does signify a shift on the horizon towards the legal recognition of animal interests. There was a footnote in the opinion that noted that pigs are not trucks and trains. And obviously that's true for all of us, but those practicing in this field know that we're in a legal system where animals are traditionally viewed as property. And so that's a significant statement that identifies that these animals are not inanimate property, and that they do have interests that need to be recognized in the law.
All right. And I think you're the last one, Amy Jean Davis. What is your final thought on this?
Two quick things. I think that we'll be able to know if companies are abiding by this new regulation just based on their production reports. They will not be able to produce as much as they did before. It's just not physically possible. So we should be able to tell from those numbers, unless they're going to cook their books, which I would not be surprised, of course. The whole industry is full of corruption. The other thing is, I don't think that people understand that most pig flesh is sold in a processed form, which, as you stated, the WHO have categorized as a group 1 carcinogen, meaning it is cancer causing, which is in the same group as cigarettes. So would our general public be up in arms if somebody was trying to increase regulation on the tobacco industry and say, oh, how dare you try to take my cigarettes away? No, we wouldn't, because we've evolved beyond that to understand that tobacco causes so many different kinds of cancer and they're bad for human health. Well, so is eating pigs, especially in the processed meat form. So this is something that we need to connect those dots and understand that this is better for everybody on so many levels, and to be thrilled that we've made it to this point in our evolution.
I want to thank everybody on this panel. I'm so honored. And thank you, Gene Bauer, especially for popping on. I know I called you at the last minute, but I just feel hope. I will say, as a human being, sometimes you hear these decisions, and I wasn't expecting the best. I had talked to several people in the know who were not that optimistic. And this is a huge day. I feel a little bit better about being a human being today. And I feel that if there's one thing everybody can come together on, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, East Coast, West Coast, is that pig gestation crates are medieval torture chambers. Come on, people. I mean, this is so obvious. It's so obvious that this is morally reprehensible. And I just think it's so wonderful that we did take this step. So thank you all for joining Unchained TV. And I always give a shout out to our streaming network. We are the world's only free nonprofit streaming network for to promote the vegan lifestyle and for animal rights as well. So please download it for free on your phones or on your TV via your streaming devices. Thank you so much. See you next time.